Hello viewers, today we're going to be switching an engine and a transmission from a 2012 Chevy Malibu to another 2012 Chevy Malibu. Basically we got the vehicle that has a newer engine and transmission, and we're going to swap it out to a vehicle that has an older and more used engine and transmission. This one has 260, that one has like 140, so we're going to get the younger heart, and then we're going to drive around, simply put. First thing we're going to do is remove the battery. Negative first, then positive. Next thing we're going to do is just try to get this box off, the battery box off, because we're going to be needing to get to this transmission assembly. So all this has to go, right? Start off with the TCM or ECM, one of these modules. This comes off of here, right? To get it completely out the wire harness, you have to use this lever right here, right? And then you just press down on the button right there while you slide up the red pin, and then it should slide right off for you. Boom. A little wiggling here, a little wiggling there, and then it's off. So the next thing you're gonna do is remove this fuse panel, right? You do so by removing these, well, not removing, but loosening these bolts right here. It's 4 of them, and when you do that, it'll loosen the grip that it has on the wire harness, right? It's 4 in total. You move that out the way. So after getting the bolts off right here on the side, and those only 2, I realized that this one is stripped beyond repair, so we're gonna have to rip this box out and then potentially extract that bolt later, but sometimes you just gotta muscle it out. And there it is. So next we're gonna remove the bracket that holds up the fuse panel. It's gonna be 3 bolts, 1 right here, 2 right here, right? They are 13mm bolts. Next is going to be to remove the gear selector shifter. It's right here. It's got 3 bolts, right? 1, 2, and then 3. Move that to the side. They are 13mm bolts. Next we're going to take off the intake, right? The intake assembly. So you start off by taking off this wire harness right here. Of course, you got to pull out the little beige part, and then press down on the button and it'll slide off. Then you go to the hose right here that's connected. You pinch down right here and pull back. You got the bracket things right here. You undo those, and also finally you undo the oil cap, right? And then you should be able to pull it right off. Now that that's off, oh, mind you, you have to undo this hose right here. This also goes up to the intake. But now we're moving on to disconnecting everything. If you didn't know, the game is to disconnect everything that will get in the way of moving this engine and transmission together. So if you look at this mount right here, right? This mount right here, you can see it, excuse me, it's right there. And then this mount right here. In addition, there might be one in the back, but with all 4 of those removed, this engine should be able to lift up. Engine and transmission should be able to lift up and get moved out the way. So if there's anything in the way of these 4 mounts, it needs to get removed and disconnected. Simple as that. All right, so there was a lot of progress made since the last set of instructions of disconnecting all wire harness and electric wires. But it's out. And basically it's out without the subframe being dropped. I saw a lot of methods online about the subframe being dropped, but I don't have a lift, so this is the best method for me. And basically the transmission right here and the engine are both pulled together, right? So I want to get both of those new components from the other vehicle and put it in here, so that way we have a newer transmission and a newer engine. And honestly, I didn't have to worry about the bell housing or anything like that, or the torque converter. So it seemed easier for me. I'm just gonna go around and basically describe how I did it. The difficult part for me, which wasn't that much because honestly it was like 50-60 steps, but they all happened pretty quickly. Nothing was too rusted out or anything like that. Make sure you get this O2 sensor out, right? Do that prior to, because when I was pulling the engine, it was a pain, right? Also get this. This is part of the exhaust, almost like a turbo. The exhaust fumes, right? It comes off of the intake or the fuel rail, whatever this is, and basically that got in the way when I was lifting it up. So recommend getting that off first. Also be mindful that there is a mount right here that I didn't see until afterwards. This basically mounts the Cadillac converter, so make sure you get that one as well. Do that prior to, because when you lift, it's gonna lift with it. So what I thought was cool was the transmission, right? The transmission just needs the CV axles pulled, right? So basically, I'll show you here. Basically, if you pull the CV axle out this way, you can just pull the whole CV axle out through the wheel well assembly. So basically, I just disconnected the hub from the strut, right, and then it gave me the space to pull the CV axle out. Of course, you're gonna need to unmount it from here, right? There's 3 bolts that mount it here. I think they're 13mm bolts. Yeah, they are 13mm bolts, and basically you just pull the CV axle out this way. It comes right out the transmission. It was actually not that bad. For the other side, I didn't find a need to do that. I just let it stay attached, right? All I did was disconnect the CV axle from the hub right here, so it just slid right out. It was too easy, and it's still attached right here. I think I can still pull it out if I wanted to, but there's no need to, so I don't, and I won't. Yeah, everything else was pretty simple. You just literally remove everything that you can obviously see is going to be an issue. The thermostat, it's got 3 hoses that need to be removed. Plug them all as best as I could. The fuel rail, make sure you do that. Make sure you have the adapter, right? It's a 3/8 adapter. This is exactly the tool that you need for this. It goes on here like this, and then lifts up. Also with the catalytic converter, make sure that you are disconnecting the exhaust from the catalytic converter. That's right there. There's gonna be 3 bolts on here. I mean, you can get the nut off and then the stud will come with it, or you could just go for the stud. Either way it works. There's no bolt at the no nut at the bottom. So honestly, once you give it a good twist, it'll just screw out. The oxygen sensor, that was a 22mm. I use a 22mm oxygen sensor tool for that. This is the tool I use right here, 7/8 22mm, right? Goes right over top. Break it loose, you're good to go. I would advise taking the stud off for the air compressor. I did not take the stud off. I just slid it out, but of course you gotta take the AC compressor off if you don't want to recharge the whole system and stuff like that and get moisture in the lines. I had a difficult time removing the AC compressor because the radiator was right in front, so sliding it out was difficult. So I recommend just getting this stud out first instead of just removing it with the stud on there. As you can see, it's a lot of oil on this thing. This is why this engine is getting replaced, for that and a bunch of other reasons. But yeah, from my understanding, it was a spun bearing, so it was causing a lot of problems. It did just enough to get on the trailer without me having to push it, so it's a win in my book. So I recommend for the mounts, of course you're gonna hook up first and then do the mounts last. But for the mounts, you undo it, right? Undo that one bolt that's basically mounted, right? And then once you got the engine moving, that's when you move the entire mounts from the engine. So that was easier once the engine was a little bit further up because not so much stuff in the way. So I recommend it be done like that. Besides that, there was really nothing much. Oh yeah, the reservoir for the coolant, also remove that before you get to listen to the engine and transmission, and just get everything out the way, honestly. Also, just make sure you have some type of drip pan. I like to take a plastic bag, trash bag, whatever, and lay it flat across the floor so it catches any oil that comes off. And yeah, besides that, it was a pretty simple lift. So yeah, that's that. All right, so now we got the new engine ready to install. Got the old engine right here. Picked off a couple parts that are gonna be better on this engine instead of that one. So when installing it, it'd be in reverse order how you took it out. So basically, you're gonna start by making sure that CV axle right here goes in first, because that was the last thing that came out. Right, so it goes in first. Of course, you want to clean up the engine a little bit, right? But it ain't perfect, but it looks a whole lot better, right? Also, be aware that the 8th digit on the VIN number tells you what type of engine it is specifically. This one that we're installing, we're gonna have to install the ECU and the TCU because the 8th digit character is off. So on this one right here, it's a this one right here is a 0 emission vehicle, and then the one that we got the engine from is a low emission vehicle. You can see that by looking at the top of the hood. It'll tell you there. So yep, like I said, this is going in first, CV axle going in first, and then we just position it in there, get the mounts in, and then yeah, the process continues. All right, so we got the engine installed. Only thing is, when we go to start this thing, this ECU is expecting a different type of engine than what was put into it. So the engine that was put into it was a low emission vehicle engine. The engine that it's expecting, this car right here is expecting, is a PZEV, which is a partial 0 emission vehicle engine. So when we try to start the vehicle is not going to start because they're expecting certain air and fuel ratios that it's not getting. So the intake on the new engine is different, right? This is the new intake. The other one had a hose going from the top right here all the way to the bottom. Basically, it's by the exhaust. Actually, it's better shown over here. It was going into this right here. So this is not being installed on that engine because it's a lot of work and it's a little bit unnecessary. So what we're gonna do is basically switch out the ECUs, but then that means that we have to switch out the ignition as well. So that is because when you go to start the vehicle, like I said, it's expecting a certain amount of air and fuel ratios, and it basically sounds like this. Oh, not like that. It'll sound like this. See what I mean? Starts, but it's not getting what it needs, so it won't run. All right, so what we're gonna do is replace the ignition, right? And then we're gonna also replace the ECU so that the ignition can speak to the ECU that it's used to, and the ECU will just run the engine as if it was in the other car. First thing you're gonna do is pop off this side panel right here. Should let it come off super easy. Pops right out. And then you have access to a couple bolts right here. Well, just one. I'll show you the other one in a second. There's another one right here. There's 2 more under here, right here. You just pull down. Once you do that, be careful, there's a little attachment right here. All you gotta do is just pry that out. Pry that out like this. Bam. That's out of there. With the next one, you should be able to just pull out like that. Those 2 screws are gone. You should be able to just pull out. Pop those out of place. Of course, you're gonna want to get this out the way. It's best to get these plastic tools. You can get them from Harbor Freight. But basically, you can get those little attachments out without causing too much damage. You'll get halfway, right? Remember to unplug this right here. It's a simple, easy win. But you'll get halfway, and then you'll start to need to get this side screw out right here. So then you just pop off this bottom. Now this side screw right here is accessible, right? Get your handy dandy toolie. Now that's gone. You should be able to pull out. Also, there's a screw right here, a bolt right here. So we're gonna remove this covering, right? And then we'll be able to access that bolt. You access that bolt by removing this covering, and removing this covering. It goes like this. Just pop under here, right? And then it starts to move like that. This centerpiece does not need to be taken out. Just be gentle but firm with this interior, because once you put it back, you want to keep looking at it and still call it pretty. So if you mess it up, you might be able to put it back and it might still work, but it ain't gonna be as pretty if you're not careful with the disassembly. So always get behind what I'm doing, right? Doesn't pry like easily, then I'll just try to pry somewhere else to make sure that I get everything like pried easily, and then they'll all come out at one time. That way you don't force one side to come out and it's not ready to. But if it all comes out, see, I might have popped it, but it is what it is. Oh no, I didn't. Look at me, so smooth. So you see that pops out like that, and then you just gotta get under it, give it a little pressure, and bam, there it is. So now we're gonna remove this covering. All right. Again, it's good to get these little hooks, man. They come in handy. They really come in handy. All right, you see how that came out like that? Boom. Right behind it. You can apply that pressure the right way. Boom, and it'll pop out. You gotta be consistent. Slide down. Alright, see, that didn't come out so smooth, so let's go to the other side. Might need a partner to come out, you know what I mean? Here we go, see. Sometimes they don't want to just come out one side, they want to come out as an assembly. So, we'll do that. Alright, see that popped out. And that popped out. Behind it again. So this, gotta raise up a little bit, and then it pops out. Of course, disconnect from the buttons, like so, and then one second. Alright, so with these, there's a top lock in, and there's a bottom one as well. So you gotta pull that out like that. Boom. And then, like I said, there's a top one right here. Pop that loose. But you see the bottom one and the top one. You just pop it loose. This is a twin hinge job. But it happened. It's gone. But this one, you gotta pull back on the back part of the plug-in, and it comes off. Now, this is more accessible, right? Of course, you're gonna continue to use your plastic tool, pry up under here, get that thing to pop off. Also, you're gonna need the key. So that way you can slide the shifter all the way back, and then you can, you know, move up against the backside area right here. All right, you got this here, then you're able to slide this back, and now you push up against this area right here. You have more room in the front. Also, you're able to pop this out right here with these little lock-ins on the back side of it. Right here, you just push up. That, do them all together, and you'll be able to slide it up. I kind of got distracted because this is gonna come out anyways. It's gonna go in the new car because it just looks better. Nothing's faded right here, just overall looks better. So I wanted to grab it real quick, but the focus is to get this bolt right here. So now you'll be able to pop this loose. Psych, that's another one. I'm not putting this together, that's why I'm just throwing stuff around. I'm not putting it back together. But yeah, once you do that, you'll be able to pull this part off. Bam. That's out the way. Now, you're going for this part right here, right? But you want to start by removing this plate right here. It's 4 bolts. Too easy. And then you're gonna remove this bolt, this plate right here. Start with this one. And then there's a 10 millimeter nut in the back for these 2 studs right here. All right. Other way, lefty loosey. All right. Once you crack it a couple times, crack it loose, it becomes super easy. Bang. And there's another one up top. Again, lefty loosey. Boom. Now you should be able to pull this plate off. Right. You really yank it out, but it'll go. All right, it's out of there. Now, of course, you're gonna have to pull out this plug that's attached to it. The screen right here. Just feel around for it. Push down on the soft part right here, and then you're gonna get these 3 screws, 3 bolts that's up here. It's tough to get to sometimes, but they're accessible. This is a pain in the butt to get to, but it is got. Now you just gotta, oh wait, you gotta remember to pop off the cover right here, right? Pop that off. Pop off the cover. Bam. And then you'll be able to pull this out. Alright, boom. There we go. Alright, I'm gonna show you one more thing. Alright, so you'll see that there'll be an attachment right here, well, this right here, and it'll be in here. So basically you just have to turn the key, and once you turn the key, it'll pop out. Alright, it'll be in there like this. Again, you turn the key, right? And once you turn the key, it'll pop out, and then you can just move the key out. All right, so the last part is to switch out this ECU, right? Well, of course you have to install the ignition switch. It's in the opposite way of what I just showed you. Also understand that when you are inserting the cable cord into the ignition switch, I'll just show you. When you are installing this cable cord into the ignition switch, you gotta you mess around with the key, right, to make sure the key is all the way turned, right, or in the ignition, because for some reason there is a blockage up here that will stop the cord from going through if the key is not in place. So that's just FYI. So then, like I said, the next part is to switch out this ECU right here. Make sure you mark which one you're going to be using. I marked this one as the old one, so we're going to put the new one in there and get some good results. Now everything is hooked up, so we're going to see what we got. Fingers crossed, prayers said. Here we go. There we go. Actually, I don't know how good that is, but it's not the best, but I'll see what's going on with that. At least it starts. Fast forward to a couple hoses that were plugged up and vacuum leaks that were handled. This is the ending result. There it is. Heart transplant complete.